Good afternoon and welcome to my hobby table. As you can see on the table, I've got several items here. And one of them is an old friend and one of them is an old memory. The old friend just so happens to be this Enya 80 four-cycle engine that just before I left Florida, this was one of the engines in the Engines That Didn't Sell video series that I did before I left. This is one of the engines that one of many that I gave to my good friend Harvey, just to try to get rid of some stuff so I could get the hell out of Florida. And he still had this engine, and we happened to be talking about Enya 80s the other day on the phone, and he offered to send it back to me, and I was like, wow, you're really an awesome, I mean, he's an awesome guy anyway. He's helped me out so many times I can't even count, but thank you very much, Harvey, for sending this old friend back to me, because this is really, it's been, the Enya 80 four-cycle is an engine that has a lot of history for me, and that kind of brings me to this other old item from the past. This is a patch that I used to wear on my Air Force uniform back many years ago. And you may be asking, well, what does this have to do with this? Well, the days when I was wearing this patch is the days that I got into RC airplanes and glow engines, and it was about, I would have been wearing this patch on my chest when I bought my first four-stroke engine. And what was my first four-stroke engine? It was an Enya 80 four-cycle. It wasn't this particular one, but it was an Enya 80 four-cycle engine. So they are related. But as you can see, this was an engine that was featured in several videos, and I can put up screenshots here real quick so you can see all the different videos, because I was looking at the history of this engine and seeing if I knew the history and could figure it out, and I did. It would appear that I bought this engine off of RC Groups. I don't know what year it is. I'd have to go back and look. And then I ran it a few times. I think I did a look inside of it. And then it was installed in a Phoenix Decathlon, and I flew that for, I don't know, a season and a half or so. I don't recall. I must have taken it off that airplane before I gave it to Harvey, because then I shot this last video here showing this engine and how it ran the last time I had ever run it. But I don't recall it having all this nasty stuff on it like this. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a little bit of a cleaning up of my old friend. I don't know how far down the rabbit hole I'm going to go with this. I don't plan on doing a full disassembly. I'm planning on only doing a surface cleaning here initially, just to get it to look pretty again on the outside. But I've got several different things I want to experiment with. Now, this little residue here is simple to clean. I could clean this off with a toothbrush and, any number of different things here. But what I'm going to use is something I've never used before. Well, I have used it before. I've used it on several other engines here already. And it's something I found at a local Menards. It's called Siege Clean. Stainless steel and aluminum powder cleaner. And basically what I'm going to do, I'll show you what I'm going to do with that here, but that's the one thing I'm going to use. And then in this little bin here, I do have some tried and true old LA's Awesome, Totally Awesome cleaner diluted with a little bit of water. Now I feel completely confident using LA's Totally Awesome cleaner with steel parts. Not aluminum, but steel parts. And as you can see, this header is looking pretty dirty. In fact, it's so dirty this nut won't even spin on here, and there's collets. At least I'm hoping there's collets in there. There's a whole bunch of carbon. So what I'm going to do here is, first of all, I'm just going to drop it in there and let it sit. Now this high-speed needle extension, it doesn't really need to be cleaned, but in fact it's probably not going to be cleaned. I probably shouldn't have done that, but we'll put that off to the side. So that is going to sit in there. Now, what I need to do here for this is I've got a toothbrush, and I'm going to have to go get a little thing of water, because the instructions for the Siege Clean state, wash the surface with warm soapy water and rinse thoroughly. Sprinkle cleaner over still wet surface. Rub with wet sponge. In my case, I'm going to use a brush. Rinse off immediately and dry thoroughly. So I'm going to pause the video here real quick because what I'm going to do is go get a little bit of water so I can dip my toothbrush in the water and kind of get this wet on the outside. I'm going to plug up any holes. I've already got a glow plug plugging this hole, so I need to plug that hole up. So I'm just going to kind of get this wet, sprinkle a little bit of this stuff on there, and just start going to town on it. Okay, so what I did was I put 1 drop of dish soap in here and a little bit of water. And I don't know the best way to do this. I'm just going to kind of get this wet and just, oops, yeah, I should probably take it out and not spill it all over the place. I'm not really going to sit here and scrub on this. I'm just going to wet the surface. I'm going to just start with this bottom area here, I think, since that's... Now I didn't show you is that this engine does turn over freely. It's pretty sticky, so it probably needs to be heated up with a heat gun, and we'll get to that eventually here. But I'm just going to kind of get some of this wet and see if I can just kind of lightly sprinkle some of this powder on here. Or maybe I could put the powder just in the tub here and just pick it up with the brush. That might be just as easy to do too. So if this becomes too boring for you, just turn it off and resume your watching of football or whatever else you would be doing. I don't know how long this is going to take, if it's going to work at all on this. Or if I should just resort to doing this with LA's Totally Awesome Cleaner. But I just want my old friend to look a little bit better, and then we'll figure out if we're going to do anything more internally. If I recall correctly, when I bought this thing from RC Groups, if this is the same engine, which they're not serialized, and it should be, I'm hoping that if it is, then it was the one that was new in the box. I've switched to a brass bristle brush here because I think this will be a little bit more aggressive. I think this was, if I recall correctly, from one of the Enya 80s I got. I think it was the one I showed you here when I did a look inside. To me, it looked like the engine was brand new and had never been run. I don't know that for sure I'll be able to validate that it's the same engine or not, but I'm pretty sure because the timelines of that and then showing the Phoenix to Tabria in the air and having an Enya 80 test run were about the same year. So I'm thinking, you know, it's probably the same engine. I could take this thing off. Obviously a brass bristle brush is going to facilitate cleaning some of this stuff off a lot better than this powder stuff here. It doesn't seem to be doing a whole lot. I mean, it's coming off, but this is a painstaking proposition. It sure as hell isn't the same as just dropping in a ultrasonic cleaner and letting that do all the hard work. So that's the next thing I was thinking of doing is on an engine. I don't know if it'll be this engine because I don't know if I'm going to disassemble it, but on an engine I'm going to put this stuff in the ultrasonic cleaner. Now it says brush it on or rub it on with a thing, so I don't know if that ultrasonic cleaner is going to be the same means of doing this or not. probably won't be the same, but it might be as effective. But I also have more of that Zep detergent, 15282 I believe it is, that Mike had sent me. He was very kind enough to send me some more of that so that I could at least clean some more customer engines. So yeah, I don't blame you if you turn this off, because this is, my arms are getting tired. This is getting pretty, I mean, I'm making headway here. This engine is looking a lot better. But I think a lot of that was due to the brass bristle brush, and maybe not quite so much this other cleaner. But either way, things are getting clean. I think I'm just going to turn off the video and keep going at this for a while, and then just show you what it looks like afterwards. Okay, I'm back. So I spent, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes scrubbing on this thing, and if you stuck with the video this long, you might learn a few things, or at least see something interesting. So this engine is still a little warm because I just finished up with putting some oil in it around here in the glow plug hole. I got the carb freed up because it was completely locked up. Now, Enya carbs, that still is really pretty warm. Enya carbs are pretty well known, at least from my perspective, because I've had plenty of them, for not taking much at all to get them gummed up and locked up. I don't know if it's because they have such close tolerances or what, but so any of those, you know, the 3 videos that I showed splash screens of, and maybe I showed a little bit of a clip of, I don't know. If I'm going to do that yet or not, of what I think was this engine. I think in that engines that didn't sell video, if you happen to go back and watch that, I said in there that this was an engine that I absolutely, totally neglected. And you can see how much better it looks now. I'll just do this as I'm talking. It was an engine I neglected, and it was just something that happened. It was one of those things. I had it in that Phoenix Decathlon. Man, that thing is still really warm. In that Phoenix Decathlon, and when I was done flying it, I'm not sure if I put after-run oil in it or not, honestly. I just put it up on the top of my light fixture there and let it sit for 3 or 4 years, and I never did anything with it after that. The only thing I think I did with it after that was take it off that airplane as I was getting ready to move and sell things, and run it that one last time. Now it seemed like I recall, I haven't watched those videos today. I'm going to do a quick look inside here while I'm talking. I haven't watched those videos today. I watched them the other day when I was anticipating this engine coming. When Harvey said he was going to send it back to me, I got so excited I went back to try to find the provenance of this engine. And it seemed like one of those videos I actually ran it with FAI fuel, but I think the last video it may have been like that S&W 12.5%. So that could be that there's some nitro in here, so that it may, if I didn't run it out completely at the end of that video, I may need to replace bearings. Although I've got a plug in here just loose. Oh, this thing's still pretty darn warm. But it's got really fantastic compression. And I don't think I need to have this prop on here any longer, so I'm going to go ahead and take it off. So you can see it turns over really well. It was turning over before I even did that stuff. Before, when Harvey sent it to me, he said it turns over. He said it feels sticky, gummy, but it turns over and still has compression. So I was like, okay, cool. I was really hoping that... Now this isn't one of those things that is a tapered collar. This just has flats on there, so if I was successful in heating this thing up enough, that thing should just come right off. But I may end up having to drizzle some more oil in there and just let it sit, because I really want that to come off, because you can really kind of tell the health of that front bearing at least a little bit. If you can get this thing off, it should just pull right off. On a new engine, that thing will just pull right off. And I don't know if I've got any kind of a plastic thing that I can start shoving down here to kind of nudge it along or not. Anyway, I'm not going to worry about that too much at this point. But here you can see this is an Enya that has the updated style head. And I don't know that many of you that are all that familiar. Some of you probably are very familiar with Enya heads, but the oldest head style, actually the bracket had a metal bracket that would bolt or screw into the top of the head. This has the brackets for the rocker arms cast into the head, and this is an inferior design. Or wait a minute, I can't recall now which one's older or newer. Oh, Harvey would be able to tell me for sure, but this is an inferior design in my opinion, because if one of these things gets broken, you're screwed. The other way that has the bracket in it, very similar to that Pegasus 240 engine, just has a metal bracket, and then you have a shaft that goes through there. Foolproof. Metal bracket, you just have one screw. But this and that metal bracket also had little set screws that would be up in there too. This does not. The screws that are in here, there's no set screw in there. It's just these top head screws, or the valve cover screws, that act as holding that in place. So this doesn't look too bad in there. I'm going to pop this glow plug out now, since I don't really need this going over compression like that. This is just some old plug I got out of some other engine just to throw in here. It's not an Enya plug or a plug I would use in that engine, but so I think the next thing I want to do is I want to take this carb off, even though I've got it freed up. Because there was this little area here that couldn't really get clean very well. I think overall this thing cleaned up pretty good, but of course I was using a brass bristle brush, so what the hell. Of course you'd think it's going to get clean using a bristle brush. So I don't know that was really much of a test of that sieve cleaner or whatever that stuff was called. All I know is if that stuff works, that's cool because it's available, readily available. It's not too super expensive. Those are my criteria for things. If it's readily available, not super expensive, and not completely damaging to the environment. It's one of the reasons I like LA's Totally Awesome Cleaner, because in theory it's supposed to be eco-friendly. So now I'm not really sure why I took that off, because I don't want to screw that gasket up. I could pop this little cover off here and get a little bit better feel for what the bearings look like in there. Like I said, I wasn't sure I was really going to do a full teardown. Let me take a quick break here and just show you, move this stuff out of the way, show you that LA's Totally Awesome Cleaner is really freaking awesome for cleaning steel parts. You remember how nasty this exhaust header was? Look how clean it is now, and I actually got it to come apart. Now there's still a little bit of a carbon ring here, but I think if I use a razor blade, I can probably fleck that off. I'll use a razor blade quite often for little things like this, just to kind of little scraping action. That's coming off pretty good there. These little collets. This LA's Totally Awesome Cleaner is eating those carbon off those collets, and this little nut is completely clean now. So I mean, LA's Totally Awesome Cleaner is totally awesome for many things, just not aluminum. It'll clean aluminum, and then it'll start eating it too, which is not what you want. I'm going to leave those other parts in there for now. So anyway, this engine did seem to clean up pretty well. I think I'm going to pop this cover off here just to take a quick look inside there. I could do the head. That way I could get these tubes and clean all the way around those tubes. But one of the things that, if you come across an Enya engine, an Enya 4-stroke engine, used and you want to buy it or whatever, you better automatically, I figure, you're going to be replacing bearings and cleaning stuff, because this little rear timing case area here is just notorious for collecting stuff. In fact, I'm not even sure I'm going to be able to get this cover off. I can take these screws out, but unless I'm really serious about doing a clean and dismantling of this engine, but I'm not really all that serious. Okay, cool, it came off, so we're good. Sometimes that can be a real bugaboo. So it's a little gummy in there, but not bad. I've seen a lot worse. A lot worse. In fact, that whole thing wants to come off now. I forgot that thing holds this whole thing in there, and I don't really want to go undoing the timing of this engine. So I think I'm just going to put this back on. I mean, I know it is winter time, or it's late, mid-fall, I'll say. But the way the weather forecast looks, it just doesn't look like it's going to be too conducive for running engines, which is really unfortunate. And I've got several engines I'm servicing for other people that, you know, I don't like to complete an engine service job without running an engine. Now, they've also said, well, just hang on to them. We don't need them anytime soon. But it's like, if I have an engine done, I don't want to just sit on it. I don't like sitting on it because, A, I want to be paid. And secondly, I don't want to just be sitting on other people's stuff and not doing anything with it. So I don't know. I think this engine cleaned up pretty nice. I'm pretty happy with the way this looks right now. And it turns over. It's got compression. I'm going to do a little bit of oiling here. Maybe off camera, I'm going to send a little oil down the pushrod tubes. Off camera, maybe I'll see if I can. I don't know if that looks like that's wanting to come off or not. I really want this off. I really want that off so that I can assess that front bearing a little bit better. And the funny thing is, it's really cool, is that you can see the front bearing is held in with a C-clip. And so anyway, you'll have to go back and watch some of those other videos of mine on this engine or any other Enya engine. Enya engines, 4-stroke engines, have not changed in design at all. So if you look at an Enya 46 or a 53 or a 60 or an 80 or a 90 or a 120, they're all the same design. So basically, if you're watching one of those teardown videos, you're seeing how it is for everything. Now, the only thing that can be different, and is different between those engines, is the way in which you time it. And the way to time these engines is you have to have the manual, period. Because every single Enya instruction manual with their engines comes with a diagram that shows you how to time the engine. And there's just timing dots on these timing gears, the intake and exhaust timing gear, and they have to be set in certain orientations, and it's not the same for every engine. Believe me, it's not the same. But the thing that's really cool about it is that you can actually set these things up to be off a tooth intentionally to change the timing a little bit, and you can set these up to be a reverse rotation engine, which I did, and I have videos of with an Enya 53 that I did several years ago. I did a reverse rotation where I got a pusher prop or something, or I turned the prop backwards, and so I mean, I got a lot of cool Enya videos on my channel. But anyway, if you stuck through it this long, thank you very much for watching, and have a wonderful day.